very warm welcome to you. You're listening to The Music Business Buddy with me, Johnny Amos, podcasting out of Birmingham in England. I'm the author of the book, The Music Business for Music Creators, available in hardback, paperback and ebook format. I am a music creator with a variety of credits. I'm a consultant, an artist manager and a senior lecturer in music business and music creation. Wherever you are and whatever you do, consider yourself welcome to this podcast and to a part of the community. I'm here to try and educate and inspire music creators from all over the world in their quest to achieving their goals by gaining a greater understanding of the business of music. Okay, so in this week's episode, I am talking to Matt Jones. Guys, Matt is somebody who I've wanted to talk to for quite some time. He is a guy who is a true maverick, a true innovator, and not just in my words, in the words of Billboard and NME, Rolling Stone, Forbes magazine, etc. Let me tell you who he is, what he's done, and then I'm going to tell you about what he's going to talk about today. So Matt is Medallion's CEO and has more than 15 years of experience as a founder and CEO in the tech and music industries, including managing 2 businesses through their exits. He began his career at the age of 16 when he established a concert promotion company. After selling that business to AEG Live, he launched his first global direct-to-consumer ticketing company, CrowdSurge, which some of you may remember. This is where he spearheaded a strategic merger with Songkick in 2015. As CEO of CrowdSurge and Songkick, he raised over $50 million in funding from institutional and individual investors and managed a global team of 175. Now, this is a company which went on to be sold to Warner Music Group in, I think, 2017. So this was a major organisation that's now a part of a major conglomerate. As I mentioned earlier, Matt has been recognised as an innovative leader by Forbes, by Billboard, Rolling Stone and many others. So that's a little bit about Matt, who I'm talking to today. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Medallion. So Medallion is really a first of its kind of music ecosystem, purpose built for artists. So it's backed by some very top tier investors, and Medallion empowers artists to launch their own fully owned app powered fan community, right? So unlocking new revenue streams and creating much deeper connections with their audience, right? So something that falls in line with many goals of many people in the music industry right now. Since Medallion's launch, they've partnered with globally recognized artists, including the likes of Greta Van Fleet, Girl in Red, Disclosure, Jungle, My Morning Jacket, and many more. Artists use Medallion as a high performing interactive channel to engage fans and drive revenue. So all fan relationships and data are fully owned by the artist, and the platform offers a streamlined experience that brings music, content, commerce and conversation together in one place. So communities on Medallion generally outperform traditional platforms, so delivering maybe 2 or 3 times higher engagement than, say, email or text, for example, with built-in organic growth, no algorithm and 100% artist ownership at the core. Now, that last point there is absolutely crucial because it underpins the entirety of what we're going to be talking about today. And it's something that I think a lot of artists will need to start thinking about a little bit more. This all falls under the philosophy, the idea of a decentralized approach, i.e. a Web3 style company that does not rely on the Web 2 approach, i.e. centralized platforms and intermediaries. This is a move away from that into artists actually having so much more control over how they communicate peer-to-peer and what kind of experiences they can offer to their fan base. Now, Matt has an utterly phenomenal track record at making things happen, building things, getting people behind it and masterminding something outstanding. I think this one is going to be next, everybody. So I proudly present to you my interview with Matt Jones, all about the subject of Medallion. So Matt, it's good to meet you. I've heard a lot about you and I've read a lot about you, and it's good to have you here on the podcast. First and foremost, how are you?
Oh, I am excellent. In London for a few weeks, so feeling really good about that. Got the British weather rocking and rolling. So yeah, great to meet you, and thank you very much for the opportunity to have a chat.
Oh, no, at all, man. I appreciate you being here. Well, let's start by by shining a light on Medallion. So if I get any of this wrong, Matt, right, just say, Johnny, shut up. You've got this wrong, right? So Medallion enables artists to own their fan relationships and distribution, giving them pricing power and direct revenue without relying on algorithmic, our algorithm controlled platforms or third party intermediaries. So would you mind kind of expanding on it a little, just to kind of give us a little bit about how the platform works for independent music creators?
Yes, of course, your core audience, I hear. Um, yeah, so yeah, I can simplify it a little bit as well. I think the idea behind the platform is very, very simple. It is that for musicians of any geography, of any stage of their career, they are essentially building audience on platforms that they have no influence, control, or ability to kind of influence in any way. And, these platforms serve a really great purpose around audience development, right? I mean, whether it's, video platforms, streaming platforms, ticketing platforms, the great distribution, it's something you have to do as a musician is like, get fans, right? Like go out in the world and get fans. I think that when it becomes a bit tricky is when as you're trying to do this, when it does come time for you to market a certain thing as a musician, whether it's a tour, whether it's a merch drop, whether it's new music, whatever it is, sometimes and most of the time now, it's very hard to reach that audience, right? I mean, like it's pretty like obvious, but like you're just not gonna permeate that entire fan base that you've worked all that time working to build over, like in some cases decades, right? So I think most artists and musicians, they think, oh, I need to like build a direct relationship so that I can kind of have a more reliable way to contact my biggest fans. That used to be an email newsletter. It's the problem as old as time, which is like, how do you go direct in the most efficient way? The email newsletter, which evolved into SMS, which is, evolving and evolving. And in our opinion, that has only really scratched the surface and not been the most productive or sustainable way to build a direct relationship with your fans. So what we tried to do at Medallion is build this interactive, all-inclusive, 3D kind of experience where not only do you own the relationship, but you keep fans in your own experience, where you can listen to music there, you're going to be able to buy merch there in the future. There's social elements to it. So it's really about just trying to own the actual distribution platform itself. So you have a relationship with your fans, but also they're doing all the stuff in association with you directly. So yeah, that's what the platform's about.
Makes perfect sense.
I hope so.
And no, it's great. And it's just so in keeping with the times of, kind of like a much more artist-centric kind of, ecosystem. I mean, there have been a few times over the years where, I've sat with artists and labels and listened to what they say, and I hear them talking about certain editorials they want to go for and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think to myself, what would happen if Spotify went down tomorrow? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what would happen to that data? How would you capitalise on it? So this is the answer, right?
I would like to think so. I think we're trying really hard. And listen, I don't want to get the wrong message across. Like, artists, musicians, like they should definitely do this. Like, you should definitely build audience on these platforms. That's what they're built for. Like, I just don't think that in 2025 that it should be your sole strategy. That's all I'm saying. Like, keep doing the other stuff. Like, do the TikTok stuff if it makes you happy and that's the way you want to express your art, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, you need a sustainable direct-to-fan strategy to be more prosperous. Like, that's basically what I think and what we've seen happen.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So it's not like you're saying, oh, this is some kind of major disruption that changes everything. This is more like this sits on top of everything else you're already doing.
Exactly. And I think the way that we have built the platform is it is zero lift. Like, as an example, like we have, a ton of artists that have been in this kind of like private mode that we've been in for the last, I suppose year plus now, where we've like been holding hands with these incredible musicians around the world, building this, what we think is an incredible product. And the way we've been able to engineer it and get the best results out of it is by all artists are really doing is debuting the same content on their own channel before it goes wider on these bigger channels. So it's not like you have to rebuild content in any way. You don't have to create new music for it. You don't have to create anything special. You're just kind of like debuting it here. It's honestly the same principle as an email newsletter, right? Back in the day when newsletters were really thriving, it was all about, well, should we put it out to the newsletter first? It's the same idea. So nothing is different. So I think we've seen a lot of success. And actually, as artists have really built this channel into something very prosperous for them, they have actually thought, well, maybe I should put exclusive stuff here, and really serve that audience. But it's like it's an added extra. It's not imperative that you do that. So yeah, we try to make this like turnkey, simple, easy as possible.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So really, in some ways, it's kind of, replacing, let's say, a YouTube premiere with just going, instead of doing that through YouTube, we do it through this platform that we have a little bit more kind of autonomy with.
Yeah, totally. And again, like the YouTube premiere could work for maybe one music video, but it doesn't work for, every music video.
Yeah.
Or like, maybe not for BTS content from a music video outtakes or whatever it is. I don't know. Like maybe it doesn't work for a tour diary. Like there's so many facets to an artist's career that, can be used for this kind of product that your biggest fans will really want to lean into. So like, why wouldn't you just, have a strategy that is all about like, okay, well, this probably we can premiere this on YouTube, but maybe we should give this exclusively to our community on Medallion. Like, maybe we should drop a 30-second snippet on Medallion before we put it on Spotify. Like, there's all these different things that you can do. But the actual premise is so basic, So we try to keep it really easy.
Isn't that the case with some of the best ideas, perhaps, is that...
Maybe.
Interesting. So. Okay, I love that. What about... So you recently wrote a piece on your Substack about Substack.
Yes.
Will there ever be a Substack for music?
Substack squared. This is something I is near and dear to me because I've been involved in, artists, fan clubs and artists, like director fan strategies for like basically 2 decades, working with some of the most incredible musicians all around the world. And I think what I've figured out is that this it's very bold, and I kind of wrote it in this Substack, and there was a Music Business Worldwide piece on it as well. But I think this one-to-one subscription model, this idea of like I subscribe to a specific artist in a one-to-one relationship. So like me, Matt, I subscribe to Johnny as a musician, is fundamentally broken and doesn't work at scale for music. That doesn't mean that there are fringe cases where it can work, and we have seen it work. Like, there are cases with some subscription platforms like Substack where it can work. But I just don't think musicians work like this. I think that musicians, they are very in the creator economy, if you will, if you try and like put it up to the macro. In the creator economy, musicians are obviously a huge part of that, but I think they're a very different type of quote unquote creator. They're multifaceted, they work differently, the way they produce content is very different to like someone like a journalist or a podcaster. And I just think it requires a different type of mechanism to extract dollar value out of fans in that way. That's all I'm saying. And I don't have the actual answer. I'm just saying that 99.9% of artists, it doesn't work for. And that's why I don't think it will work on Substack, because Substack is that one-to-one, subscription model. But you'll see on Substack that there's a few musicians that maybe it works for. I don't know. But yeah, in my experience, I just think it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay. No, I really admire that. And it's not like you're saying, oh, here's the answer, but it's more kind of like, here's the question. This is just something to ponder. And actually, it's really healthy, I think, to ask questions like that, because, even if the answers aren't there straight away, it's just healthy, isn't it, to query things. I mean, what you're saying there, I'm kind of finding myself nodding along, Matt, and I'm also then thinking about the consumer's point of view. If you think about it, just think about your basic consumer patterns as a music fan. You don't listen loyally to an artist straight for 10, 20 years.
No. Right.
It comes and goes. Like in Britain this summer, we've got a huge wave of people listening to Oasis because of the reunion tour, but they weren't listening to Oasis a year ago. Maybe some of them were, but you know what I mean? It doesn't fall in line with that one-time subscription model. Doesn't work the other way around, perhaps, either.
Yeah, and I think for me, like Oasis is a perfect example. Imagine if Oasis formed a fan club 20 years ago and made fans pay for it, and then did nothing for however many years it's been, and then come back on this like insane tour, and like maybe they put a record out, who knows? But musicians do that, right? Like they want space to be creative. That's the way they create amazing stuff. So I think that creating this mechanism that forces them to output work when they don't want to doesn't make any sense. And on the fan side, by the way, fans just get disappointed, right? Yeah. And they're just like, and then it's just, and also like this is said in the best possible way, but like fans have this kind of, when they do that, they have this kind of idea of entitlement, like you owe me this. And I think it's wrong. Like I think for someone someone who's like a videographer or a podcaster or a journalist or something like that, it makes a lot of sense. Like it's very constant. It's kind of single-sided. Like it's journalism, right? It's like words, and maybe there's occasional bit of video, and maybe there's some IRL stuff, but generally it's kind of the same thing. And they can manage their output, and there's an expectation around what the output is. With music, it's just like, well, I want first dibs on tickets, and also I expect you to give me unreleased music, and I want a live album. Why didn't I get the live album from my city? Like, why did it come from just London? You know what I'm saying? It's endless. So I just think it just doesn't work. And I don't have the solution, as you mentioned, but I think the solution lies in harnessing, and I wrote this in the piece, harnessing the power of the network, where, giving musicians the ability to do stuff at their own speed, at their own time, when they want to, and also leveraging the fact that fans don't just like one artist. They love loads of artists, especially the really leaned in fans, which is, by the way, what we're seeing play out on Medallion right now. So yeah, I think it's just really cool to think about, because I think it could really be a game changer if we try and get a little bit closer to the solution.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Well, speaking of Medallion, you've recently launched a new version of Medallion for music lovers that puts all artists into a single network. So why the shift from standalone artist communities?
Yeah, so I mean, the very early prototypes of the product, so just for those who don't know, we started the company around I can't remember the exact year. The years have been going. It was either 21 or 22. I can't remember. Maybe it was 2020. I don't remember. But the very, very early versions of the product, we launched a prototype with Sigur Rós, who I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, and obviously an absolute institution, incredible art. It's an absolute privilege to be able to launch something so, so far out with like such an iconic artist. And then the second, kind of more fleshed out version of the product post our first funding round was with Tycho, the electronic artist based out of San Francisco. Scott is aka Tycho, was hugely influential in designing the early product and stuff like that. He's an incredible guy. And really, for your listeners, the first version of the product was this idea of essentially a siloed artist community. So fans would join from all of your channels, whether it be Instagram or Spotify or Discord, wherever they are, and they would discover this new community that was kind of put up by the artist. So, you would join the Taiko community and you could name it. And, fans would join to get pre-sale tickets or it was free to join for fans. And they would get pre-sale tickets and music and everything else when they get there. And we just really developed that product from a very basic, like, publishing platform where fans could engage with, like, every type of content to adding, like, social features and listening parties and all sorts of amazing stuff. It was a really interesting journey over the last couple of years. And we did that to try and figure out how much energy, how many things and how many features and how much stuff did we need to build in order to prove out this idea that if we can siphon off a bunch of your audience into your owned and operated channel, how much would it move the needle on your ticket sales or on your merch sales or whatever it is? So if we made it more fan friendly and put more features there, fans would enjoy it more, and also they would stick around more and just be more sticky. And the answer was that if artists invested in it a lot, the same is true of any platform pretty much, but if they would invest in it a lot, the ROI, like return on investment, was huge, right? We have loads of case studies with some incredible artists like Jungle and lots of others where, the community of fans that they built in this product was, responsible for selling, 20, 30, 40, 50% of a venue. And I'm not talking like small venues, I'm talking like arenas, stadiums in some cases. Like we work with Imagine Dragons, we work with Jungle, we work with J Balvin, like we work with some incredible artists. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is that early version of the product conceptually as a thing worked, but when the rubber hit the road, it was very hard for artists to embrace it and invest in it because it was a big commitment, right? And it was just like, it was their brand, as in like the artist is like facing Medallion is in the background, and they had to kind of like be present a lot and be very conscious of it. And the other thing on the fan side is it was very hard because it was built as a web product. So it's basically all built on the web. It was kind of like built desktop first because we were trying to do a lot of stuff with it. And as we started wanting to do stuff like integrate DSPs and integrate Shopify and do push notifications and do all this stuff, it just became harder and harder and harder to build on the web. And we just thought, like, if we want to make this easier for artists to just get started, and if we want to make it easier for fans to just get started, we should just collapse everything into one place and basically create the, I think, first of its kind, like, artist-owned distribution platform. So that's what Medallion is today. It's in the App Store, Google Play Store. And when you download it, you can see a bunch of artists that are already like activating on the product, like in the platform, whether it's over Mono or Disclosure or whoever it may be. But then there's the ability for you to follow other artists. And those other artists that you follow, you're also creating a data relationship with those artists. And when you do that, it creates kind of like a waitlist concept. So then the artist can see, oh, I've got like 100 followers. Maybe I should like lean in and start activating on this page and building out my presence on the platform. And what I just said, that last bit, was not possible with our web product because artists couldn't just go get with a touch of a button get started. They'd have to build a whole custom experience, and they'd have to come up with a name for it, and we'd have to design it and all this stuff. With this, it's just like it's all pre-built, and they can just go in whenever they want. So like if Radiohead wake up tomorrow and make my dreams come true and decide that they want to be on Medallion, they can just press a button and get started. And that was kind of the way we did it. And on the fan side, everything is in one place. So like you don't need multiple accounts. You don't have to remember everything, and all of your fandom can kind of be in one place. Sorry, that was very long-winded, but that was the reason why.
That's amazing. Extremely well explained. It's a real privilege to listen to you talking about this. It's fascinating. So would it, I'm just trying to think of, so going from where it was to what it is now, I get it. I didn't get it. I didn't understand the switch earlier. Now I do. You've explained it perfectly. Is there therefore then mileage in, emerging artists kind of engaging with Medallion earlier in their career? Like, is there a collaborative filtering element between the bands that they're similar to?
100%. So what we see is if I, as a fan, I could give you a typical fan journey here. Like, let's say I'm a huge fan of the Black Keys, right? And, they're playing in London. I want to get pre-sale tickets. They're running pre-sale through Medallion, e.g. like you have to join their community on Medallion to get access to the pre-sale first. You know, there's only a certain type of fan that does that, one that really wants to go to the show. But let's say I see it on Instagram through the ad mat, I click the link in bio, I go to the Medallion page, I subscribe to Black Keys for free, I get my pre-sale code, I buy the ticket. When I've subscribed to Medallion, and most of the time, fans get the app because they're curious and they also want a better experience. They get the app, they'll load the app up, and they'll see that they're following the Black Keys. And then they'll see a giant plus button that says you can follow other artists too. On average right now, we're seeing our fans follow 5 artists. Now, keep in mind that that could be any artist. And generally, it's artists that, you know, you love, because you're not going to go through that effort. But right now, we're really building this network of like curiosity where a fan is like adding just like 5, 10, 15 of their favorite artists. Most of them, as of right now, are not really present in the product. Like they haven't turned up yet. We allow artists to come in and claim their pages, but not really present. So, you know, there's a ton of emerging artists that are on the platform that are just getting this passive growth because of what the Black Keys did. Wow. You know, like they did nothing. Like, but the Black Keys launched this arena tour, got a bunch of fans to come in, and now created a bunch of like kind of followers for other artists. And the same could be said for other artists that do it. So the idea is the beautiful thing I think about it is, not to toot my own trumpet kind of thing, is that all of it's owned by artists. So there's no there's the artist data, they have the relationship with fans. So there's no like hidden agenda here. Like it's just the arts supporting the arts. That's basically what it is. Yeah. And yeah, it's been really cool to see because there's like insane surprises you see every day when we had an artist, Lord Huron, put a giant pre-sale through the platform, and then you see the type of fans that follow other artists on the platform. It's super cool. So yeah, I think more and more as the network grows under the hood, it's going to be great for emerging talent for sure.
That's so inspiring. Jeez, I can't even imagine how much work must have gone into that. Goodness me.
It's, we have an incredibly talented, passionate, small team here. A lot of seasoned people in the music business that care deeply about the creative industries. And if we could do this for every creative industry, it would be amazing. But my personal belief is that music has it needs so much care and attention that you just have to be focused on it. And also, to me, it's like near and dear to my heart, obviously. But yeah, I mean, like, kudos to the team. I mean, like, it's not, I mean, this is like definitely not all my work in any way. Like, we have a brilliant team that has come up with all of this. So yeah, kudos to them.
Wow, that's amazing. You've raised a lot of investment and notable support from influential names. You mentioned some earlier, but also the kind of likes of like Disclosure, My Morning Jacket, Millennium. Have you noticed a kind of shift in mentality and expectation from music creators?
Yeah, I mean, we are very fortunate that artists see so much potential in this team and this platform and this idea that they want to put their hard-earned dollars in investing alongside us doing this thing. I mean, Metallica invested as well. Like, it's been, it's a privilege to be able to do that. I'm not going to, let's say it's not. I think the thing that is just so apparent to me, Johnny, just from doing this, obviously, before this, did Songkick, and before that, I did a company called CrowdSurge, allowing artists to sell tickets directly to fans. To me, the way I've kind of operated through this is like, I just believe all of this is inevitable. Like, I just don't see a world where artist is not the platform in the future. Like, I've thought that since I was 16 and I left school. I was just like, I don't get this. I don't understand why artists are so reliant on these other platforms. There must be a different way to do this. And, it just seems like that's never happened. So I'm just going to keep trying to figure out how to do it. I don't know if I'll be successful. But I think that the current state of music is further showing how it's not working. Like, I think for emerging talent, for like, massive superstars, like, obviously Taylor Swift complaining about the ticketing systems, like, everyone talking about streaming payouts, AI music, like all of these are problems because artists have no direct connection with their audience. All of this could go away if they just fix that bit. But that's a monumental task. That's like rewriting the entire economic engine of the music business. And, we're going to give it a go. But, it's very ambitious. But that is what I think the state of music is today. And I read these headlines every day. And I'm just like, yeah, obviously that happened. Like, obviously the next thing's going to get even worse and worse and worse. Like, nothing's going to change. So nothing really surprises me. But I will say this. I'm so interested in what artists think about what we're doing. And we take so much feedback, quite weighted very heavily from musicians themselves. Like, all of our business development efforts, all of our essentially outbound is with artists and artist teams, and not necessarily their stakeholders, although they're super important. The labels, the agencies, the publishers, the distribution companies, they're super important. It's not the artist. So we have spent all of our effort and most of my career embracing the artists themselves. And I think, to your point, like, you hear it firsthand how disturbing a lot of this stuff is, and we're just trying to funnel it into our energy to try and build the right stuff for them. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Brilliant answer. I appreciate it. I wasn't sure whether to ask you about Songkick or anything, because obviously you have a fascinating and hugely successful track record of kind of building ideas into game-changing organisations that, quite frankly, shift culture. What is it that kind of keeps you driving to succeed? Is it that idea that you had when you were 16 and said, why does this not work that way? What is it that kind of makes you go, I want to keep building?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, listen, the Songkick thing was such a journey, and we were blessed to be able to given that opportunity to do what we did at the scale that we did it at. And I wouldn't change anything about it. Obviously there were a lot of bumps in the road, but learned so much, had an amazing time doing it. And it was kind of like the end of a bit of a journey for me, because I started my other company, CrowdSurge, which merged into Songkick. But it's always been near and dear to me, like this idea of like artist empowerment. And I think that the thing that gets me out of bed and focus on this is I get so much energy out of basically enabling artists to do the things that they really want to do. And like just empowering them to like be able to go direct, or empowering them to like sell out stadiums like on their terms. And in my opinion, like, music is so special that it's kind of annoying that so many people like get in the way of it. You know what I mean? It's just like there's so many intermediaries sometimes that like you just want the raw thing, and it's very hard to get the raw thing. So yeah, to me, I just fundamentally get up every day because I'm obsessed with this problem of trying to just collapse like the ability for artists to just have a direct relationship with their fans. And I think on the macro, Johnny, is like, if you actually look at the research, sorry to be a bit of a nerd about this. If you look at the research, and your audience maybe will appreciate this, but if you look at the research, if you take all the creative industries, like we kind of talked about a few of them, like journalism, videographers, podcasters, etc., musicians, if you look at like I use the word GDP output. Like if you look at the amount of economic footprint of an artist, just take any artist, and you put a side by side of like, okay, let's just say that one artist is $1 million worth of ticket sales, streaming, merchandise, blah, blah, blah. And then if you put that next to a podcaster, right? And then you look at how much take home the artist puts in their pocket versus a podcaster, it's like 10x less. Like it's mind blowing and essentially what we distilled it down to is like artists take home 10 cents of every dollar, which is insane when you think about the how important they are to culture, how important they are to these massive platforms, how influential they are on everything we do all day, every day. And I think that that's basically been my mission, is that how do I take that 10% to 90, 100%? Like, why can't it be that? And why can't, Substack has done this for publishers, like for journalists. They have figured it out. Like, that's why I wrote that article. Like, you launch a subscription on Substack, they take 10%, the journalist takes 90%. You look at the amount of journalists that are coming out of the major publications, that's why. And I think, why can't the same be true for music?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really what I get excited about.
Wow. You're a maverick. You're a rock and roller.
I don't know about that.
Oh, well, if I may say so, I think you are in the coolest way possible. I think it's great. I really do, because you're kind of, it's much more than just bricks and mortar of a system. It's a philosophy. And actually, if I look back, I was just, as you were just talking then, Matt, I was just cycling back slightly in my mind, thinking the amount of conferences and networking events I've sat in where people go, we want to build an artist-centered ecosystem. And I kind of sit there nodding, and I go, yeah, but like, we haven't got one, have we? Like, you know what I mean? And then there's you, and I meet you, and I'm talking to you, and I'm like, oh, this is the guy, man. This is what we need. It's amazing. Can I just say, right, on behalf of the silent majority, thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. No,
it's amazing.
It's not just me again. It's like, the team that I've worked with on this company, past companies, like, the people that have put their hard-earned dollars into investing around this idea. But yeah, man, it's like, it's so near and dear to me, and I don't think I'll stop until I figure it out. I don't know if I ever will figure it out. But yeah, I just think it's so important. And we're just opened the platform up so that every artist can get in there and get stuck in and do what they want with it. And a really big part of what we're doing is, right now the platform is free for musicians to use, and we want to keep it that way. And it's free for fans to subscribe. But as we talked about, there's all these ideas around how do we create economic relationships with fans on artist terms, right? That not on platform terms. And so we're going to be testing a lot of stuff around selling merchandise and selling digital music and doing all these things in a really different way, just to kind of see what sticks and see what fans are into and what artists are into. And it's obviously a big shout out to all of our early musicians who've been on this journey with us. It's just like an unpredictable, crazy, just going for it mentality. And these are some of the most influential musicians in the world who have decided to go on this journey with us. So obviously big thanks to them. But yeah, a lot more to come, I think.
Well, I think so. The final question for you, Matt, and I'm intrigued as to what your thoughts are on this, because you're so much more informed than the average person on this. I want to ask you about NFTs. I remember, back in sort of, 4 years ago, when they started making waves, and then I had a book that was published last year. It's about music business, where I kind of talk about how I think they're going to return on a much stronger level. I just wondered what your thoughts were on either sort of on collectibles or just on saleable assets, maybe just the general subject of NFTs.
Yeah, explain more on your thesis of them coming back. Why? I'm very interested.
Well, I just feel like it kind of got a bad press, but the idea is really good. And I think one of the things that we perhaps have witnessed more so, perhaps in this decade than any other, probably because of technology, is that scaremongering is a big thing, right? So we've got it with AI right now. It'll pass. We've had it before with samplers and cassettes and CDs and so on and so forth. But we're getting it more now with a certain narrative where we go, oh, NFTs are the future. I remember sort of, I don't know, 4 years ago, just so many people talking about NFTs, and I'd be like, do you know what they are? No, but they're going to be massive. You know what I mean? These people just nodding along with everything that's going on, and then they kind of got a bad press because there was a bit of corruption or whatever. But to me, it's always felt like something that was misunderstood and untapped. And then you've kind of seen artists build their own collectibles, and it falls in line perfectly with what you're building.
Yeah, right.
And so is there a future for them?
Yeah, so I mean, actually, the origins of this company started with around the crypto industry, and the company was founded right in the middle of all of that. And we had a very strong thesis, and I still have a very strong thesis on blockchain infrastructure and subsequently NFTs. I think that we tried a lot of stuff around that thing. I think, to your point, it was very noisy. It got off to a very bad start.
Yeah.
And this is the way the music industry works. It's like you kind of just get one bit of bad press, and then it's just like wildfire. Like, it's just very hard to contain. And I think they just got a bad rep. I mean, the wider market of NFTs is not good either. So I think, like, kind of broadly, it's not been working. But I will say this on kind of music X, crypto, if you will. I think this idea of blockchain and applying it in a world where, like, artists do own fan relationships, and you can put some kind of immutability on that. E.g., like, it's great that we share data with artists. That's very important. But at the end of the day, what are they going to do with a lot of this data, right? Like, sure, there's a lot of what do you call it? There's a lot of feeling of, like, safety when that happens. But with the blockchain, what you can do is you can actually put a lot of this stuff on chain so it lives forever. Like, this idea of, like, fan profiles living on chain, so they're associated with certain artists. So I actually think, like, the blockchain technology is, like, infrastructure for this idea of, like, creating permanent records that are owned by the people that should own them. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I think that will ultimately come back, because I think it's a no-brainer. And I think artists actually want that kind of, like, independence. Now, some people would argue, like, you can just do that on the cloud and blah, blah, blah. But I think that with blockchain technology, I think it's like, if we can figure out quick ways to do it, would work. With NFTs, I don't know. I think it's a big hill to climb. And I think for some artists who have a lot of visual output and are very creative and want to lean into it and do it properly, I think it makes sense. I also think NFTs, in the broad sense of the word, if it's around music and music editions and digital music as NFTs, I also think that's interesting. But I think that it's going to require someone to come in and really create a safe place to do it, because it was kind of felt like the Wild West a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And I think if we can figure out a way to do that, then amazing. And that's definitely something we keep an eye on, because, as I said, like, the company has origins in that stuff. But, I think it was, like, unfortunately a very bad start.
Yeah, well, yeah, I knew that you had your roots in it, and it did. Maybe it'll be called something else. Maybe the term NFT, kind of got a bit too much for people, and it'll come back as, it's like, people don't say UFO anymore; they say UAP, and it's like, that's the same thing. We're just calling it something else because it sounds different, right? Maybe it'll have a new title, but the idea behind it, in many ways, is kind of it's not without its flaws, of course, but it's a strong idea. Do you know, one of the things that I have witnessed quite a lot of especially in the last 5 years, actually, Matt, is the amount of artists that are coming out of their record deals and going just direct to distributor, getting advanced that way, or maybe even just going, do you know what, I'm just going to do like an artist label services deal or whatever it might be. And it's very often positioned, because of sort of power, if you like, and just that. And so everything that you're building falls in line with that perfectly, to thrive.
I really imagine a world where artists can do more of this stuff themselves. And, that's obviously great for emerging artists who have less stakeholders at the stage of their career. Like, maybe they don't have an agent yet, maybe they don't have a record label yet, and they can just put stuff on, like, DistroKid or whatever it is, and they can just get stuff out there. But I think that for the more established artists as well, it's an amazing time, like, to be able to do that kind of stuff. Like, you look at artists like Jungle, like, they are, distributed through AWOL, have had an incredible last 4 years, and just doing it themselves. Like, it's, It's amazing. So yeah, I think that we're going to get that train is not slowing down. I think that is, and that's great for everyone. Like that, to me, that is just closing the gap even more.
Yeah. It helps absolutely everybody. Yeah, totally. Matt, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy boy, right? So
of course, mate.
I really appreciate it. I'll let you go, but thank you so much for being here, for discussing, for opening up the way you have. It's a real pleasure, man. I appreciate it.
Amazing. Really appreciate the time, mate. And a plug for the company, Medallion.app, and easy to get started for everyone who wants to get going.
Brilliant, and I'll put a link in the description, all that good stuff as well. Yeah,
wicked, mate. Thanks a lot.
What a dude! Wow, what an impressive guy. I hope that you gained quite a lot from listening to him. You know, what he's building here with Medallion is not just something that sits within the upper echelons of signed artists, everybody. Not at all. As he mentioned there just a few short moments ago, actually, you know, this is for everybody that makes music. You know, this is just a much more kind of forward-thinking, data-owned, decentralized way of working, which, you know, I look around and I go to conferences and I speak to people on network, and this is the theme that keeps coming up again and again and again. Somebody had to come along, right, and build that. And who better than Matt Jones to do that, right? So who knows? Maybe this won't work, but I think it will. And it was a real pleasure to talk to him about that today. I hope you've gained a lot from that. Until next time, everybody, may the force be with you.